Hi everyone, this is Chris and I'm here to share with you today a fun little companion for Cornelius Crow. I painted Cornelius a couple weeks ago and everybody fell in love with him. I asked if you would like to see him have a companion and the answer was an outstanding yes. So today we're going to paint Silas Scarecrow. If you love Cornelius, I think you're going to absolutely fall in love with Silas. So grab your brushes and let's get started. Silas just has 3 pieces and I wanted to section off the hat. So I laid the brim on and marked it with a pencil so I knew where each section was. Painted the hat and brim cocoa, the face almondine, and the nose warm sunset. Give it a good sand, a little heavier on the edges. And you can see why in just a minute. We want to add a little bit of shading around the outer edge. Using a baby wipe, wrapping it around the tip of my finger, picking up a little bit of burnt umber, using small circular motion to slide that paint on there. And where the edges are sanded, it's going to grab that paint just a little heavier and stronger. It's beautiful. I was going to do the rim with my finger, but it was too thick. So I just went to a brush, loaded the toe of the brush with thinned burnt umber, and just scooted that along the outer edge, and it's the same effect. Baby wipe goes a little bit faster, but on smaller pieces like the nose and the brim, it will work better with a brush. I wanted to put some texture or straw look on the hat, so I've taken my incredible comb and I've loaded it with thinned burnt umber, and I'm just adding some cross hatching. Now this is a rustic scarecrow and his hat's not perfect, so thin that paint down, keep a light pressure, and just add that cross hatching. A few little stripes on the nose. It's all these little details that will really make a difference. To do the eyes, I just mark with a pencil where the eyes should be. Using my painter's pal and picking a size, I loaded my stencil brush with soft black. And clean it off every time. That way you won't get wet paint anywhere you don't want it to be. 2 light coats is always better than 1 heavy coat. Using that same soft black and my 18-aught script liner, thin it down and pull out little eyebrows and eyelashes. Now, if your paint brush drags, that means you just don't have enough moisture in your brush. Add a little more water and thin it down, and then that should just glide on super easily. Want to add the cheeks. If you've never used my diverse dry brushes, these are the most amazing brush that you'll ever find. Loaded it with warm sunset, wipe it on a paper towel to get most of it off, and then I'm just dry brushing it until I achieve the desired intensity. Super easy, and they come out perfect. I always like to add a little shading in the eyes, and this is with white, Snow White, corner of my 1/4 inch angle. It always looks so much more professional if you add a little shading around the eyes, underneath the eyebrows, and this is the burnt umber. Just thin, it's not a lot, just enough to give a little bit of dimension, set those eyes in the face, and it just looks fantastic. Again, a little bit of paint makes a big difference. It's all these little details. That loaded my Epic script liner with Snow White to add little comma strokes in the bottom right of the eyes, and then switched over to Stylus to add that little sparkle in the top left, pull a highlight down the nose, and add 3 little twinkles on his cheeks. Little details, huge difference. It just brings life and a twinkle to him that is adorable. I thought since the dry brush worked so well on the cheeks, I wanted to brighten up his hat. So I just added a little bit of the golden straw on my dry brush and just dry brushing a few little highlights in there. It doesn't take much. Took my white chalk pencil to mark where the mouth goes. Loading my Epic script liner with soft black to create those mouth stitches. Again, make sure that paint's loaded correctly and you can create those little dashes very easily and smoothly. To add a little more character, I added the little cheek marks and then vertical little stitches between the mouth dashes. And it really makes a huge difference, that little bit of detail. It just ramps it up a bit. Glued the nose on with a lean tacky glue. Make sure it's in the correct place. Now where I want to put the raffia for the hair, I'm just going to turn it over and mark the side edges of the brim. And I've taken some raffia and I work it between my fingers because it's really stiff and kind of doesn't want to lay soft and smooth. But once I get it softened up, I put a little bit of hot glue on there, use my silicone tool to hold that in place, and just make sure it's nice and flat. This works better if you add the raffia in small sections as opposed to one big clump of raffia. And I found out it also worked better if you cut the ends off instead of having it looped over. It just made it a little bit thicker and a little bit harder to work with. Make sure that raffia is longer than you want. You can always trim it up. Once I decided I had enough of the raffia on, I can go ahead and position that brim and glue it on with hot glue. And you can add a little bit of tacky glue in there. I didn't want his hair to cover up his little facial features, so I'm giving him a little bit of a trim. I like to trim it a little shorter around his face. I don't want it to be too unruly, but I want it to have a little bit of shape to it as well. Using my Bow Dabra, put a little bit of raffia down, first layer for the ribbon. This is tan striped homespun, adding a little bit of orange check homespun, and these are strips about a ½ inch in width. And if you have those loose strings on there, it always looks a little tidier if you trim them up. And this is just a gingham green and white or green and cream checked bow. It's kind of fun to mix the textures and the styles. It just adds more interest and makes it a little more fun. And I've used the brown floral wire to tie that together, glue it in place. And again, I didn't trim the tails until I know exactly how I want it to look. It takes a good bit to fluff it up and make it look just right. Trim each one of those off one by one instead of trying to do all of them together. Those little ends of the brown floral wire, I just took and wrapped around my brush, and they make the cutest little curls. And it's a great way to utilize that extra length on the wire and add a little more personality to the Scarecrow. I've had a sunflower. It was really bright yellow, and I just dry brushed it or washed it with a little bit of burnt umber, glued it into the center of the bow, decided I wanted a few more of those little cute curly cues, and I made a longer curl, and then I just folded it in half and stuck it in behind. And be careful, don't burn yourself. I tied some homespun around his neck, and I'm just spraying the ends that I cut off just to give it a little more of that rustic Scarecrow look and make it all look like it's cohesive and that it will all work together. And you can use a little bit of hot glue to tag those ends in place. I had a button, and I'm just threading some jute through the button from the front side to the back, and I'm going to tie a bow on the back side. It's just a fun way to add that extra bow. Gives a little bit of thread in the button. Once I get it the right size, I'll just glue it on with a little bit of hot glue, and you can see how that dresses up his little scarf. Go back and touch up any stray hairs or raffia or little strings from the homespun. Just cleans it up nicely. And I think he just turned out adorable. Everything I used is listed in the description below. Let me know what you think. Is Silas your favorite or Cornelius? Or do you just love both of them? Thank you for joining me. That's it for Silas. I hope you enjoyed painting him as much as I enjoyed creating him. He's just full of quick, fun personality, and I think he makes such a perfect companion for Cornelius. If you painted along with me, be sure to let me know how yours turn out, and don't forget to subscribe, and that way you won't miss out on upcoming tutorials. Thank you again for joining me today. I look forward to our next painting adventure together, and remember, a little bit of paint makes a big difference.